I just want the auditorium to know that I do support HEAT and BSAP ever since it was at its inception, and that's thanks to Dr. George McKenna, his great ideas, and I've seen the great progress that our students have made. And that's why I supported Ms. Griego's suggestion that we borrow from the OPEB to fund BSAP after I was assured that it would not be illegal and that our retired employees would not suffer because of that, so I was okay with that, supporting BSAP. Now we have the central office budget cuts, and they were also very necessary because without that, our fiscal stabilization plan would not work, and the County of Los Angeles Board of Education would not accept our budget. And I do appreciate that all the cuts were trying to be made away from the schools. That is really important, and we all know that. But, you know, the cuts to central office also affect our schools. And many, many services that central office supplies to our schools is being cut. And having to decide where to cut is very sad, very, very sad. Central office people are our people too. We all work for the Board of Education, LAUSD. So many of these cuts unfairly target our school police. School police are tasked with protecting our district assets and, even more important, protecting the safety of our students and our staff. And I have worked for the district in schools longer than anybody seated here, including the superintendent, longer than. And I have seen and experienced and witnessed the great work and the assistance from school police all the time. Now, I know there are members on the board who simply do not appreciate school police, and I see how that is reflected in the many resolutions, and following the resolutions, the amendments to the resolutions that seem to always target school police. They're always mentioned to be cut by name. So the last amendment called for additional cuts to central office and included school police. And regretfully, I had to vote yes. Not that I want to cut school police, but I understand that we are in a very difficult situation and we have to make cuts in order to make our fiscal stabilization plan work. So, Mr. Chait, I just want to make sure that any reductions that we continue to make to school police would not affect the actual officers who are protecting us, but other aspects of the school police department that make it furnished.
Thank you, Board President. So there were a few items that were called out last week as we discussed the fiscal stabilization plan, and there's three parts that would potentially impact school police. One is just a general central office reduction. Again, we had already put a $50 million reduction for central office for 27-28, which would include school police taking a reduction there. There was an additional, by amendment, there was an additional $20 million of central office reduction that was added, so a total of $70 million, and again, school police would be impacted there. There were two other reductions specific to school police inserted via amendment. One was for the coming year, $3.5 million reduction, and for the following year, a $7 million reduction. In looking at those reductions and in looking at what's available, what we can do based on staff analysis is look at that $3.5 million reduction. That could be done without directly impacting personnel within school police. I cannot say the same for any of the other reductions, but specific to the $3.5 million, yes.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Anyone else? Other comments? Sherlett?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you bringing that up because obviously we were, I'm going to say we, I was put in a predicament as well because I do believe in our safety officers as well in our school sites, and yet, and often we have put one against the other. It was even mentioned here in public comment, and it is not synonymous, nor is it in a tangent to our program that we have titled Black Student Achievement Program. And that by no means do one trump the other, or one is better than the other, or however we want to frame it. However, I know our school sites and many of our families have come to this board and have made mention to their need for our school officers to be present near their school sites. And so I appreciate you bringing the comment publicly so that we could have that conversation, because it is true, and our officers do more than we can imagine as we continue to lose revenue at our school sites. And so just for public record, we are losing items at our school site because we don't have oversight of some of the property that our school resource officers tend to respond to. And so anything 50 grand plus, our officers are not responding to our school sites, and yet we are losing revenue that way as well because of loss of property. And so wanting to always mention the facts so that we are still on the same page to that point. And it is unfortunate, and I do definitely say that our schools and the voices of, as we mentioned in this board, about 5,000 continue to want to support our resource safety officers. So thank you for that.
Thank you.